So we are primarily healthcare. We renovate and build hospitals, additions to hospitals, all in the upper northern part of New Jersey. So from central Jersey to the upper northern part of New Jersey. Pretty much any hospital within that area, we've done work or do work or is a customer of ours. We are specialists, I guess you could say. When you're looking to build a hospital or do renovations, there really isn't anything that we don't know about it or haven't done.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Sal D'Ambrosia. He's the Director of Construction Technology at Blanchard. Sal, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Sal, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm the Director of Construction Technology for the William Blanchard Company in New Jersey. And I started out as a plumber at 14 years old, putting pipe together. And I guess I learned early on that there needed to be a faster and a more efficient way to do what we were doing. And I kind of worked towards that way until I got to construction technology and found out that that was probably going to be the best way to get more productive and more efficient. And then moved into that side of it and the digital side of construction and getting those technology tools out there to the field.
Wow, that's really interesting. So talk to me a little bit more kind of about the scope of work that WM Blanchard does.
So we are primarily healthcare. We renovate and build hospitals, additions to hospitals, all in the upper northern part of New Jersey. So from central Jersey to the upper northern part of New Jersey. Pretty much any hospital within that area, we've done work or do work or is a customer of ours. We are specialists, I guess you could say. When you're looking to build a hospital or do renovations, there really isn't anything that we don't know about it or haven't done. So we are pretty much the specialists in that area.
Yeah. And I mean, WM Blanchard, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 6 generations of Blanchards, correct?
Yeah, we've been in business. If before Abraham Lincoln became president, if he needed a hospital that worked on, WM Blanchard was there to do it. So we've been in business that long. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. So primarily talking about, kind of the healthcare field, that's really interesting. So talking about, building additions, building, maybe new wings. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
It's exciting because everything is different. If you get a new hospital, the newer work seems to be a little bit more cookie cutter, where you know what to expect. A lot of our work is renovations, and from the minute you open that ceiling, you never know what to expect. So it's a challenging thing, and especially when you're trying to do the digital side of it, to try and perform that work in a digital environment for a building that could be 100 years old. It used to be tricky. It's not tricky anymore. We're very good at it now, but it is exciting, and it is. You definitely don't get bored. That's the sense.
Yeah. And what do you mean by digital?
So in other words, we'll go into the hospital, into the existing conditions, and we'll get a laser scan of the area and bring that data back to the office so that we could design or coordinate the work that needs to be in the new phase of the project inside of that laser scan. So it's basically like having a group of construction workers on ladders taking measurements all day long, but we own that data back in the office, and we're able to detail and collaborate too.
Wow. Do you think kind of taking that initial assessment and, besides the 6 generations of rich history, do you think it's those 2 things that really make Blanchard stand out from its competition? Or talk to me about other ways that, you think that the brand's able to.
Yeah. So, I think we stand out in the sense that, when you're calling or when you're looking for someone to do work in a healthcare facility, you could have the person that does work in 15 different other facets of the industry and has a little bit of knowledge or a fair amount of knowledge in healthcare, or you could call Blanchard where that's what we do. That I think sets aside. The other thing is the people that we have working for us too. You know, they're very understanding of what the issues and the heartaches that are associated with doing healthcare work like that. So where some of our competitors might think that, you know, the world is coming to an end, for us, we've seen it 100 times and it's not there. Lately, what has set us, I think, apart is our construction technology and our use of construction technology. For us, it's not just another section in the brochure that says we do this, we do this. We actually do it. And we don't utilize construction technology for the sake of saying we do construction technology. There's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of people that'll go out there and they'll add a whole bunch of technology that doesn't really serve a purpose or make the project any more productive than it had been 10 years ago. The only difference is you say you've used the technology. Where our technology, whatever we do use, we use for then to answer the why. You know, why are we using it? To be more productive, to be more efficient, to be more safe, to put less people in smaller areas. You know, those are big things. And, you know, we talked before about the labor shortage. The technology is not helping in the labor shortage as much as people would like to think. Here's a misconception, is that the technology is taking people from the field and taking that work away. It's not. The technology is just making it easier for those people. And I think that as we move into this and we have that labor shortage, getting those young people involved, they don't want to see when you are going to a career fair, or you're going to a college or even a high school, and you're trying to bring the new blood into the industry. They don't want to see overalls, hammers, and jackhammers and hard hats anymore. That's not really what they want to see. That's not a part of the project still. It is. But what they want to see is the video games. They want to see Call of Duty, and they want to see, you know, the computer work. And there is that side of the industry that people don't really understand or don't really think it's there. You know, if you go to a career fair and you put up the sign, you know, WM Blanchard Construction, the first thing people think is hammers and nails. Mm-hmm. And that's not really it anymore. It's lasers and robots and drones, mm-hmm. And, you know, digital software and digital construction. That's the stuff that I think can bring the people into the industry. And that's, I think, something that sets us apart, is the passion for that. You know, we have a very stringent learning or teaching that we do here at Blanchard on the construction technology. We don't just grab a new flashy software, have one person in the organization that knows how to use it and says, here, everybody else use this. We get that software and we train pretty much the entire organization on how to use that software and get the benefits out of that software. So I think that's another thing that we do too, is the ability or the desire to actually continue in our education too.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece too. You raised a lot of really good points kind of in that little, you know, few minutes that you were just talking, you know, one about pulling kind of that new blood, the younger generations into the trades, because there is a labor shortage right now, specifically in the trades. So pulling them in, and, you know, I think you raised a really good point. Obviously, you know, being the director of construction technology, being able to speak to that, saying, you know, hey, people think that it's, you know, jackhammers and nails and all of that now, but look at the technology. And I think it's really great that you're taking the technology and it's not just necessarily specialized, that, like you said, you're training, you know, across the company so that other people can do it, just to make everyone a little more versatile and, you know, kind of, you know, level up in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to buy a stick shift Maserati and have a bunch of people that only drive automatics. You know what I mean? And that's what happens a lot. And what happens, especially in construction technology, is you push those people away, right? You get that, and let's face it, you still need construction people to build buildings. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, what happened, and again, this is just my opinion, but I think what happened in being a tradesperson originally, we pushed out the technology, and initially the technology didn't work all that well. So when the tradespeople got it in their hands, one, it was hard for them because they're not necessarily technologically savvy to start, but then it didn't work. So then it was like, okay, well, why am I learning this if it doesn't even work? And they went and they pushed back to the principals of their organizations and they said, this stuff doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And the principals of the organizations, not knowing anything about it, just take their word for it, rightfully so. Then the technology got a little bit better, and they tried to push it back into the workers' hands. And the technology got better, but it got a little bit more technical. So it pushed the trade a little bit further away. This is something I don't want to learn. And especially if you were just going to put it in their lap and say, here's a laptop, go and work it, they weren't going to understand it. So you've instantly taken somebody that's been installing pipe or installing walls, installing ceilings, for 20 years, and you've made them a little less knowledgeable by giving them the technology, and they pushed back on that. So what we started to do then was hire more technical people. But technical people don't necessarily understand how to build a building. Mm-hmm. So now what you have is the technical side of it has a lot of technical people that are now giving the data to the people in the field, but it's incorrect because it doesn't have that trade knowledge to it. So there are organizations out there, Revisto being one of them, that has made a software that has brought it back into the field and it's made it a video game, right? It's Call of Duty, for construction. Mm-hmm. And you could just sit down at it and feel as though you're playing a game. And I think we're bringing the trades more into that. But another thing is to get with those tradespeople and to let them better understand the technology and get them to understand that they could take their work boots off the concrete floors and put their fancy shoes on and go into an office with that knowledge that they have. And I think they don't really understand that to teach a technical person 20 years of plumbing experience, you need 20 years. Mm-hmm. To teach a plumber with 20 years of plumbing experience to learn how to use a computer, you need 6 weeks, mm-hmm. not 20 years. The computer is nothing more than press a button, press a button, press a button. There's a path to everything you do. Mm-hmm. When you go out in the field and you go to do plumbing or walls, every job you go on is something entirely different. And you need years of experience to understand everything that might be thrown at you. Mm-hmm. So you don't just go into, every job and take the same tools out, the same material out and build the same project. It doesn't work like that. But on the computer, you do. Mm-hmm. Every time you go to the computer, it's the same function, the same keys, the same way you're pressing it. So there is something that can be trained there and get the trades more into the technology side.
Yeah. And, kind of talking about technology, you said, you've been a plumber for, 20 years, I think you mentioned, talking about that and then coming into your role now. How have you seen technology really revolutionize the construction industry?
Yeah, you take like a total station, which is like a robotic layout. So we take the data that we detail in the model and we take that data and put it into a robot, mm-hmm. and the robot will go out there and lay out the hangers. Now, I used to consider myself a very good layout guy. And if I got 75 layout points in a day, I thought I was a hero. Well, the robot goes out there and gets 400 in a day.
Yeah.
So that's revolutionary right there. And that's the first step. And like I talked about, we use productivity technology, right? Stuff that really works for us. That's the first step in it. There are other elevations to that and things that you could do that take it to a whole nother level. That's an easy one. And mm-hmm. right there, it changes the industry with mm-hmm. just the first piece of technology. The other stuff after that can even change the industry even more.
That's really fascinating. And I think, certainly in the world of technology changing by the minute, really, construction is in an interesting point where, like you said, a common misconception is that technology is taking people's jobs. If only it's just enhancing and making it safer and allowing workers to work in a more safe environment, thoughtfully and without really wasting time. Am I right in thinking that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not taking jobs away from people. It's just putting their minds to work in a different way, right? Where, it may come off wrong, but being a former field guy, I feel comfortable saying it. we would consider ourselves like cavemen, right? We were we've all seen the movies of the construction worker coming home from work, dirty and beat up, and he sits down on the couch, and it doesn't have to be like that. The technology has made that where you're not breaking your back anymore, and you're not on your knees all day long. There are tools out there that can make your career last longer, make the job more productive, make the job more safe. And that's where back to the labor shortage, I think, where we could get those people involved, because they don't want to be climbing ladders, up and down ladders all day long and banging hammers and things like that. They want to use the technology.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, we've seen a change in generations kind of work ethic and what they're looking for in a job. And it seems like, but from the conversation we've had, that Blanchard has been able to adapt. I mean, Blanchard has been around for 6 generations, so you're obviously doing something right. So being able to adapt to, each of those changing generations, because, it's the times have changed back from when Blanchard first started. It's a very stark difference from start to finish.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you a lot of credit to the Blanchards, because it being an old organization, an organization that's been around forever, typically, organizations like that, when the technology comes in, that's when they start to fade out. And the Blanchards, they don't believe in that. They believe in staying on top of the technology and being on the forefront, not necessarily the leader in it, because like I said, we don't want to use technology for the sake of using technology to say, oh, well, we built this flashy modular thing and it cost us, $30,000 more than it would have cost us to do the other way. But sure enough, we use that technology. We're not going to work like that. We're using things that are productive. And like I said, the training part of it, you can't just bring the technology into an organization, have a group of people, a small group of people work inside of a silo that utilize that technology, and everybody else around them in the organization has no idea what it even does. Because then eventually what happens is those few people that live inside the silo, they're building the projects, and everybody else is around them just walking around in circles. We're teaching everybody as we move forward in the technology to understand the technology and why we use it. So you can pretty much go to anyone in our organization and ask them technology questions, construction technology questions, and be assured you're going to get an answer with some knowledge based into it, And at other organizations that I've been at, if you weren't asking the people in the virtual design department about the virtual design department, I mean, I've heard people say that, we were going to go bring the scanner out there to lay out hangers. Well, the scanner doesn't even lay out hangers. It's not even possible. The total station lays out hangers. The scanner scans. But I've heard people say, higher ups, walking people around the office and selling it and saying, we're going to take the scanner out there and lay out the hangers. If you don't understand it, it's very hard to talk about it. And, that's where the training comes in.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's why, you are an expert in your role, because you are able to be, obviously the director of construction technology, share your knowledge, and also encourage everybody else in the organization to embrace the technology, to not be scared of it, to learn from it and embrace it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the advantage that I have is that spending over 20 years in the field and installing the pipe, and then moving into, some project management and some estimating and some purchasing, I've touched all of those things. So when I'm saying this technology benefits us, I'm not saying it benefits this person or that person. I'm saying it benefits the entire organization. So I'm trying to get technology in there that we can utilize, from purchasing to estimating to project management to field installation to coordination, and all of that straight through. And I understand all of those aspects. So I'm not going to ever say, here, the purchasing department should utilize this software and not have any type of knowledge as to why. I'm not going to tell you to use or ask you to use something that I don't think I would have wanted to use when I was in that role. And having most of my time being in that field time, when I see something in the model, I'm acting more as a virtual superintendent than what we consider, or what other what our competitors put a person in that position and call them the BIM manager. And what that really amounts to is a technical person, somebody with technical skills that's pressing a button on a piece of software that tells them this is a clash, and then sending that clash to somebody else that fixes it. I'm flying through these models and these buildings and walking these buildings virtually all day long, the same as our field superintendents will be walking the field to see the actual installation. I'm walking that virtual installation to pick out those issues before they get to the field and before they become issues that have to be removed. It's a lot cheaper to fix issues in pixels than it is in pipes and fittings, right? So what we can fix in a model in 15 minutes might take 5 days in the field at times. So to get those issues and resolve those issues there, and having someone with my background in that position that, Blanchard saw the need for that, and that's why they brought me on. And having somebody in that position, I think, is priceless. We see too often that, working on that side, I used to get from that BIM director clashes all the time. Well, this is a clash, this is a clash. And it's not really a clash. In the real world, you're just wasting my time. That's supposed to be a clash. That pipe connects to that piece of equipment. You know what I mean? So things like that they don't understand, it's not a knock on them. They just haven't had that much experience in the trades.
Yeah. And like you said, it makes for work more efficient, safer, and just streamlines the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, and we are getting there, you know what I mean? To say that, anyone in this part of the country, the East Coast, especially in New Jersey, does tend to fall behind the rest of the country, especially like the Midwest and the far Northeast, the New England states up there. They're a lot further along on the technology, and a lot of it has to do with, let's face it, New Jersey egos, right? There's not to stereotype it, but it's there. We are very proud, and me included, very proud of what we do. And I know when I was in the field that I was never going to be that personality that was going to have somebody hand me a model and say, just build it. Don't think about it, just build it. That wasn't going to be me. And that's why I went to the technology side, because I couldn't let that happen. There are a lot of people like me out there that do want to push that back because they are extremely knowledgeable in what they do. And they don't need somebody to show them where it goes. What they don't understand is that we understand they don't need somebody to show them where it goes. But what we need is to have it built on the computer before it goes out there in the field. And if they're not technologically savvy enough to get on that computer and do it, we're forced to do it with somebody with a little less ability, maybe. And that's why they need to come onto that side, onto the technology side. And once that stuff gets out there in the field, it is what it is. And you do have to try and follow it. Because once you break free and change something in there, you have the potential of changing far more than what you knew when you changed one piece of pipe.
True. That's a really interesting point. And, that's the importance of technology there too, is seeing the bigger picture as well.
Oh, absolutely. And like I was getting at, there's a much bigger picture. We've grown and done amazing things here at Blanchard over the last 3 years, increasing our technology and our knowledge of technology. There's a whole nother level that we're going to get to and we're working to that really changes the way we do a lot of things. And we're working to that spot. Like I said, we're just not going to throw it out there though and say, hey, let's give it a shot and and hurt our customer while we're doing it. We're perfecting it outside of that. And then this way, when we roll it out there, we know that everybody's going to do that. And it also goes with us. And we have another program here at Blanchard where we're going around and working with our subcontractors and helping our subcontractors grow with us in the technology. Because as a general contractor, we could say we're going to do all of this technology, but if we hire a subcontractor that's not technologically savvy in that and doesn't have the experience in the technology, well, then we're just that company that's putting a technology thing in their brochure and not doing it. So we're working with our subcontractors, the more technological subcontractors and the less technological subcontractors. The technological subcontractors to have them influence us and how they want to do it and how we could work with them. And then we have the lesser or the ones, the inexperienced technology subcontractors that we're trying to give them some of the experience. And I do have a lot of that experience having used it where I could help them with that. So we're helping them and hopefully we could grow as a team.
That's great. That's great. So if people wanted to learn more about Blanchard, where would they go?
Well, WM Blanchard, I believe it's WMBlanchard.com is our thing. We do have a LinkedIn, so you could go to LinkedIn on WM Blanchard and look us up and the projects that we do and some of the things.
Fantastic. Great. Well, Sal, this has been a great conversation. As we start to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about the construction industry, the changing technology, your experience with Blanchard, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, here's a good one. And we talked before about misconceptions. One of the biggest misconceptions, including a lot of our subcontractors, but really the industry, is that when we do this digital side of the construction, it's an added cost to the project. And what we need to understand is it is only an added cost if you don't utilize the time and effort that you put into it. So if you put that added cost into creating that virtual model, and then take the data from that virtual model and actually build it, it will decrease your labor hours, it'll decrease your material usage, your safety, and it'll actually become a cost deduct to the project. So that's the misconception that people need to start to understand is we're still looking at it as though it's a cost impact and it's a cost overrun, and it's really not. It's actually making you more productive, which should lower your costs.
That's a really interesting point. And I'm glad that you brought that up, talking about, again, common misconceptions about that kind of fear of almost technology that, it's worked for so long, but, the need to adapt, to change, to be more efficient, to be more safe and so on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take it, looking at it from a plumbing standpoint, I can build a project the same way I did in 1990. And when I get on that project, I will 100% understand everything that I need to do to get that project done. Or I could have somebody influence me with technology and get on that project. And the first time I use that, really have no idea of what I'm doing. That is a tough pill to swallow. And I understand that. But if you don't swallow that pill, you'll never get better. Yep.
That is true. I had a mentor that once said to me, everything's hard until it's not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Change is hard. But then one day suddenly you're like, it's not hard anymore.
I always use the analogy of the 25-pound dumbbell, right? And if you could take a big guy and bring him to a gym and have him curl 25-pound dumbbells for 10 years, and 10 years later, he'll still be curling 25-pound dumbbells and never a 50-pound dumbbell, until that person goes to the 30-pound dumbbell, the 35-pound dumbbell, the 45-pound dumbbell, and then works their way to the 50-pound dumbbell. You'll never get to that point unless you get the disruption, the discomfort, the pain in between. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of the contractors are struggling is, okay, I'm comfortable right here. I'm comfortable doing this. The minute I add this technology, I'm not comfortable anymore, but you're never going to get any better. So you're still going to be laying out 75 points a day rather than 400 because you didn't want to take that one job that might have taken you a little long, that you didn't want to put the money into purchasing that robot because it was expensive. So you pushed back on that. But now, 5 years from now, you potentially are out of business because everybody else is using this tool that's laying out 400 hangers to your 75. Yeah. And as a general contractor, who are you going to hire? The contractor that says, I'm going to do all your hanger layout and all your wall layout in 3 days rather than 3 weeks? Or the contractor that says, I don't utilize any of that technology. I'm still going to go back to doing it the way I would, and it's going to take me 3 weeks. Especially working in hospitals, when you tell an owner of a hospital that he's opening on June 1st rather than July 1st, that's a very, very big thing. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, Sal, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you breaking down, all things Blanchard, the construction industry, talking about the changing technology, how to embrace it. Growth happens in that discomfort, learning to kind of lean into that discomfort and, accept the technology, welcome it, grow from it, learn from it. And I just really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, great to have you.